Hello, welcome to the Blackbaud Ninja channel. In the video today, I'm going to go over the fun topic of the differences between events in RE NXT and the database view. There are a lot of differences, but then there are also not that many differences at the same time. So what I mean by that is all of the data that you could previously track on events in database view, with a few exceptions, like the seating chart, for example. Most of that data is now available inside of NXT. Before we begin kind of talking about some of the differences in them, I want to highlight the awesome cheat sheet that my colleagues at PSG have created. And you can get this if you go to prengersolutions.com/resources and then downloads. There is this Razor's Edge cheat sheet. And if you download that, I would definitely keep this handy just for everything in terms of moving from database view to NXT. But I specifically want to draw your attention to it for events because when you're looking at events in NXT and then you're doing queries, and if you're used to pulling queries by some of the old terminology, it can really get confusing. So definitely go download this. We'll reference this throughout the video today. So first, we're just going to start with how to access and view events between the two systems. So if you're looking at database view, the way that you would have accessed it is by going to records and then events. And then to see all your events, you would click open an event, just hit enter. And here is where you would see your list of events. It's pretty similar inside of Razor's Edge. You can in NXT you can still see a list, but you're going to go to on the left page tree events and then overview, and it's going to default to showing you all the events. One of the benefits of NXT over database view for events is you have many more columns that you're able to see. So if you wanted to easily see all of the dates for these events, the revenue, expenses, percent to goal, the payments balance, you can see that pretty globally versus in database view, you really just have the name of the event, the ID, the category, the type, and the group. So you can't see the dates, you can't at a 10,000 foot level see how much these events raised at a quick glance, what the expenses were, but you can easily see that in NXT. But if you only wanted to see, 3 columns, you can do that as well. You can also export this list, which I have done already. If you wanted to, play around with it, do some analysis, print it and send it to your board, it just gives you a good format to kind of do your own data analysis with. So that's one cool thing too about accessing the information in NXT. So the event I've selected to use today, and again, you can search for portions of event names in any of these search boxes on any kind of list in NXT to easily find things, but I'm going to use this 50th reunion party. And then this kind of gives me all of the details at a glance about the event. I'm going to select it here in database view. And a lot of this information that you would typically see on the general tab is what is displaying here. So you'd have the name, the date, and the time. You would have the event details under details. So if you wanted to know the lookup ID, which is helpful for reporting, the category that we've categorized it as, the group it's in, the goal, the capacity, the location, the contact person, all of that is available here on the event. And so similarly, it's here on the general tab and database view. If we wanted to see that contact for the location, her name is there as well. We have our same, capacity, things like that. So that information is, like I said, all that information is in NXT, just like it was in database view. If we wanted to look at prices, so this is one of the things where, let's go back to our handy dandy chart here. So prices in database view are now fees or registration fees in NXT. So it's all under this information here called fees. So if we're looking at database view, you'll see we have an individual type of fee. We have a foursome type of registration, like if we're doing a golf tournament, and we can enter in the amounts for those registrations and then enter our receipt amount. So if a portion of it is a charitable donation, a portion of it, they get something, some goods or services received for that, the receipt amount needs to be what the charitable portion is. So in this case, let's say for an individual, they get a $5 t-shirt out of it. So the receipt amount of the charitable portion is $30. Same thing with the foursome. So that information displays here, and it is dynamic. It is, dynamically connected. So if I entered a couple and said they're $75 and their receipt amount is $50, and if I refresh my browser here, it will update. So if you're making updates in one, they do automatically update in the other one, which is nice. This information here with campaign, that is what is located on the general tab here. So if I changed this to 2024 test, it will update in NXT as well. One of the things that I don't see in database view, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the appeal package and fund that is connected, did not see that in database view. So you would probably have to have some defaults set for your campaign to get all of that to populate. So to me, that's an advantage inside of NXT is being able to set those defaults. So then we'll talk about, one thing I do want to mention about prices is if you do have really in-depth benefits reporting, so if you really need this broken out for various acknowledgments and tax letters, you would still need to come into database view to enter this benefits area. So expenses, there's not really anything different here. We have our expenses listed in database view, and you can see it here in NXT. So that's the same. Jobs, I don't believe that is over in NXT. So if there's something specific that you're doing with that, you may want to look more. If that's connected to, which I think it may be, to the volunteer module, then that's probably something that's going to be coming down the road because that's currently not on the NXT event record. I'm going to save participants for last. Same thing with actions. If you have actions that are connected to it, I currently do not see, like you can currently add an action connected to this event. You would kind of have to do that in a different way by going on the record and creating an action and using like an action type to be connected to the event. I don't think that is currently an option, but I will check. So if I wanted to enter an action, I don't think it gives you the option to connect it to an event. Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, so that would be something that is currently not in NXT, is being able to connect that action specifically to the event record. So I will need to go back to the event. All right. So attributes, those are now custom fields as we know in NXT. So that is going to be its own little panel, custom fields. As you can see, insurer, capital insurance company, and that is what we have here in database view. For your media, if your media attachments, that's just going to live under attachments. There's currently not a notes. So if we go to notes here, if we have notes connected to like this agenda that I've added connected to this event, I do not see an option for that on the record. So that would be something to keep in mind. You may have to store those notes externally or at the very end of the event, add them as an attachment. Okay, so I've saved the most confusing one for last, which is the participant options. So we're going to go back to our chart here. Almost everything with participants has kind of been renamed. So when we're talking about, these fields, invite, question mark, participation, registration, inside of database view, they're now called something different. So invite is now invitation status, participation is participation level, and registration is RSVP status. So if you're looking at participants in database view, you'll see this participation of coordinator, status of paid, registration, registered, attended, no, for Godofredo. So if we go back to our event and go to our participants, so we'll see, here's our Godofredo. We have RSVP status attending versus it was called registration in database view. So we have our registration of, oh, and you know what? Make sure I have all my columns. Response. So just one of the things to keep in mind is, our attended, our RSVP status, our participation level, they just have different names in NXT versus in database view. You can still connect guests. So you'll see here, like you do in database view, where you have, your various guests, they can still be connected to the participants. So all of that is really the same. One of the really big benefits that I want to highlight with events before I end in this little training session is the online registration forms. So that and the participant options are really great things that you can copy from another event. So if you're selling things like t-shirts or you want to have options of various menu items, you can add those options here in participation options and copy them between events. You can also set up online registration forms, which work hand in hand with NXT gift batches. And you can email out those registration forms, whereas there's not really that type of functionality in the database view. One of the other things to highlight as well is the seating chart. So that is something that a lot of people use in the database view, or this kind of the seating chart options. That is not available out of the box inside of RE NXT. There is, however, if you go to the marketplace, there is a seating chart app, which is really inexpensive, that you can connect through the API to connect to Razor's Edge, and you can use that to kind of drag and drop seats and work with your participants here. So that is, even though it's not necessarily brought over as part of the out of the box events types of data in NXT, you can connect it. The other downside that is currently not available for events is reporting. So under reports and event management reports in database view, you have all of these fancy reports, seating arrangement reports, income expense reports. Those reports are not yet available in the standard reports area in NXT. So you may still need to run some of that information in database view. You can create dashboards to look at events, that's some of your event data. So that may be, also an option if you don't want to use some of the out of the box reports inside a database view. So hopefully that helps. There are a lot of really great features to the RE NXT events module. Managing event participants is really easy. You can also, if you're working with participants, if you create a constituent list, you can easily add people to your event and it will tag them as being invited, and all of the various like participant data that you previously would have tracked in database view, it will automatically add that when you add them to the list. So there are some time saving features. Definitely suggest getting here and playing around and taking some of the in-depth if you have access, some of the in-depth trainings that Blackbaud provides, because there are some really, really great options. You can also add participants, manually, just like you can in Database View as well, and you can add from a list as mentioned. So hope this helps.